All right, everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video, we're looking at Fantasy Hockey Week 18 must add. I got 6 players for this week. Only a couple teams playing 4 games this week. A lot of teams actually playing just 2 games before there is a massive week of NHL hockey the next week after this. So let's get into Week 18's must add. All right, so the first guy we're going to be adding this week is Quinton Byfield on the LA Kings, down to 38% rostered right now in Yahoo Fantasy Hockey leagues. He plays 4 games this week, as well as the LA Kings, with the Sabres, playing the Sabres, Devils, Bruins, and the Penguins. He's back on that line with Kempe and Kopitar. It honestly seems like any person that Kopitar and Byfield play with, they seem to have insane production. Like, they were put together with Trevor Moore for a very small amount of time, and they had an expected goals for percentage of 81%. Now, they just played 30 minutes together, and Trevor Moore is having a great season. His breakout season for sure, but it just goes to show these two guys together can create offense no matter who they're with. And when you put them together back with a guy like Adrian Kempe who can score, I think it's just a great recipe for success there. So the Kempe, Kopitar, Byfield line this season does have an expected goals for percentage of 55%. So that's one of the tops on the LA Kings, and they've also played over 450 minutes together this season as well. So Byfield, 4 points in his last 3 games. But remember, the Kings do have the second easiest remaining schedule in the NHL, and the fact that Todd McLellan just got fired, I think this will help the Kings get out of their rut. You know, we've seen it happen to a bunch of teams already this year, the Edmonton Oilers being the best case of that. So I think we'll see a much better offensive production from this LA Kings team in the second half of the season, starting with that top line, Quinton Byfield. All right, the next guy we're adding this week is Teuvo Teravainen on the Carolina Hurricanes. 34% rostered right now, has the ability to play left wing and the right wing spot on your fantasy hockey teams. 3 games this week for the Hurricanes. They play the Stars, the Coyotes, and the Golden Knights. Teuvo is a guy that I definitely wasn't super high on at the beginning of the year. I thought he was definitely due for some regression, and I think we did see that. But now back up on a line with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis, I think a line that really flourishes and plays well together, and we're seeing that in the first 2 games since coming back from the All-Star break. Teravainen had a 4-assist game against the Colorado Avalanche the other night, an assist in that loss earlier this week as well to the Vancouver Canucks, but leads the team over the last 5 games played with 9 points, 7 assists and 2 goals. So he's definitely more of an assist merchant, but playing with a guy like Seth Jarvis right now, who over the last 5 games played in the NHL, leads all players in expected goals for. So he's definitely creating a lot of offense, but I think it just helps that he's playing alongside a guy like Teuvo Teravainen, who has the ability to pass the puck at a very high level, and then also with Sebastian Aho. So I think this Carolina Hurricanes team, we're going to see the best offensive side of them, considering what we saw from the first half. It was rather inconsistent. I think we'll see a much better and consistent Carolina Hurricanes team. So I think it's definitely best to get in on Teuvo Teravainen early now, where he's 34% rostered, if he's still available in your league, before he's up to close to like 50% or near where Seth Jarvis is, who's now about 75%. And about 2 months ago, he was about 35% rostered. All right, now looking at guys that are less than 15% rostered, the first guy on my list is Andrew Mangiapane on the Calgary Flames. Has that left wing and right wing spot just like Teuvo Teravainen, who we talked about before. In Yahoo Fantasy Hockey leagues, the Flames play 3 games this week, playing the Rangers, the Sharks, and the Red Wings. Now, Mangiapane is back on a line with Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman. Anyone who really plays on this line with those 2 guys has had great seasons. If you look all the way even to last season, if you look at even the stretch here where he had Huberdeau on that line with these 2 guys, he had a great stretch of points really playing with those 2 guys. And now we're seeing it back happen with Andrew Mangiapane, and the stats kind of show for it as well. The line, 58% expected goals for percentage. That line has played the second most minutes together on the Flames as well, and have the highest expected goals for. So this line has worked really well for Ryan Huska's Flames for whatever reason. Has been split up. You know, when you go through different ruts throughout the seasons, obviously you need to make some line changes, but I think putting these guys back together is the best recipe for success for this Flames offense. If you look at Mangiapane as well, scored a goal in their most recent game against the Devils, and his stats since January 26th, he has only played 3 games, but a goal and an assist. But the biggest thing about his stats since that time frame, or in that time frame, he's 3rd in the NHL in expected goals for. So creating a lot of offense, and shows that you play with Backlund and Coleman, they obviously help you in that scenario as well. So this line, I think, will continue to play well and put up points. I think Andrew Mangiapane will be a benefactor of that as well. All right, looking at a goalie for this week, if you need David Rittich on the LA Kings, 19% rostered. The Kings play 4 4 games this week, which is a big part of reason why I think Rittich is a great add. As I mentioned when I talked about Byfield, they play the Sabres, the Devils, the Bruins, and the Penguins. From what it seems now, and now I don't know if it's going to change now that Hiller has taken over the head coaching duties from Todd McClellan, if they're going to go back to Cam Talbot, but it really did seem like right before the All-Star break and that game before the All-Star break, it seemed like David Rittich has kind of cemented himself as the starter and someone who really deserves the starter's crease. And honestly, you could look at it simply as look at the last 5 games from David Rittich and Cam Talbot. Rittich's last 5 games, 2-0-2 with a 2.5 goals against average and a 9.15 save percentage. Cam Talbot, on the other hand, 0-4-1 his last 5 starts with a 5.20 goals against average and an 8.55 save percentage. So not the Cam Talbot we saw at the beginning of the season for sure. I don't think that's all on him. I think this team was just really down in the dumps and also was playing much worse defensively than we saw at the beginning of the season as well, when Cam Talbot was putting on, honestly, or putting together a Vezina candidate type of season. Obviously, that's dropped off since, but I think a lot of people did expect it at this point. So I think we'll see a lot more David Rittich, especially this week coming back from the All-Star break. The Kings need as many wins as possible, obviously early out of the gate here, to compete for that wild card spot and even a playoff spot in that Pacific Division as well. So I think with the change, the head coaching change, and then also I think we'll see the Kings go back to what we saw 5-on-5 wise in terms of how they played defensively in the first half of the season, which will also help David Rittich. So I think David Rittich is also a good longevity add as well, because he could just totally steal the net from Cam Talbot, considering how easy they've been able to replace goalies over the past 2 seasons on this Kings team. All right, so one defenseman I have on my list this week is Sam Girard on the Colorado Avalanche. 13% rostered. He's been absolutely buzzing recently. His last 4 games played, he has 2 goals and 2 assists, so a point per game there. And on a team like Colorado Avalanche, where there definitely are a lot of mouths to feed, I would say, in terms of points production, he's doing a good job of solidifying himself and getting his own chances and being a part of a lot of offensive rushes, which is what Sam Girard does really well and really has done well throughout the course of his career too. So the Avalanche play 3 games this week against the Capitals, the Lightning, and the Coyotes, so definitely some favorable matchups there. I don't know if he's necessarily a longevity add, Sam Girard, but you kind of want to ride the hot hand while you can. If you need a defenseman, I think this is one of your better options in terms of guys that are less than 15% rostered, because over the last 7 days, he's top 10 in fantasy points scored in Yahoo Fantasy Hockey Leagues right now. So that's obviously some good company to be a part of, and I think he can keep it going for, I don't know how much longer in this season, but definitely for the short term as Colorado tries to get out of this 3-game losing streak that they're on. All right, and the last guy on my list, 1% rostered on the New Jersey Devils, and that's Ondrej Palat. The Devils play 4 games this week, and honestly, I know obviously that you have the Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes is back now, Jesper Bratt, Luke Hughes, Simon Nemec, but I think this is the best kind of super sleeper ad, if you want to call it that, for the week for this Devils team. They play the Kraken, Predators, Kings, and Flyers. Not the easiest matchups by any stretch in terms of how these teams have played defensively throughout this season, but I still think getting a piece of this Hischier, Bratt, Palat line is so important right now, and the best option you have out there available in every league is Ondrej Palat at 1% rostered. He has 3 goals, 5 points his last 5 games played, next to Hischier, who has 7 points his last 5, and Jesper Bratt, who also has 8 points his last 5 games. All 3 of those players rank in the top 10 in points scored over the last 5 games played when you're looking at the entire league. So they've been one of the best lines in the NHL since coming back from the All-Star break, and even looking at the week before the All-Star break as well. So it just shows that you need to have a piece of this line, and it shows analytically as well, because they've been broken up at certain points of the season with all the injuries the Devils have endured this season, but they lead all other Devils lines in expected goals for percentage, and they've played at least 150 minutes together. So you know that this line combination does work. I think Palat can be a benefactor from it as well, and I think we'll see Palat have a really good week this week as he continues to play with these 2 superstars, I will call it, or all-stars you can call it, as they play 4 games, and definitely some tougher matchups, but definitely I think a week Palat can definitely be set. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of these 6 players to add for week 18 of the fantasy hockey season. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.